Prologue. The first time Elara realized her life was no longer her own was the night of the blood moon. The elders whispered of fated mates and prophecies, of an alpha king whose mate would change the fate of wolves. That mate was her. Only she knew it, because her wolf whispered it in her dreams, branding her with an unbearable truth. And so, at just 13 years old, Elara made a choice. She let the world believe she was blind. She let her eyes glaze with the illusion of emptiness, let her movements falter as though the world was cloaked in shadow. She gave up running in the woods, reading under the moonlight, and meeting her own gaze in a mirror. For 10 years, she lived inside the cage of her own lie. Because if the Alpha King ever found her, if he ever claimed her, her life, and the lives of those she loved, would be destroyed. Or so she thought. Chapter 1. Elara's steps were soft against the worn wooden floorboards of the Silver Mist pack house, her hand grazing the wall as though she could not see. To the rest of the pack, she was the fragile, pitiful girl who had been robbed of her sight in childhood. "Morning, Elara," came the sweet voice of her cousin Mina. Elara tilted her head, offering a soft smile that never reached her sharp, storm-gray eyes. "Morning." Her voice was a melody, soft and unassuming. Mina tucked a strand of blonde hair behind her ear and sighed. "Mother says the Alpha King is traveling through our lands. He'll be here by tonight." The words made Elara's chest tighten. For a decade, she had prayed never to cross his path. For a decade, she had hidden herself in plain sight. She lowered her lashes, feigning innocence. "The Alpha King? Here? What business would he have with Silver Mist?" Mina shivered. "No one knows. But they say his wolf can smell lies, that he can see straight into your soul." Elara's heart skipped. She forced a trembling smile. "Then it's good I have nothing to hide." But her wolf stirred restlessly inside her, whispering a single dangerous truth. "Liar. He is coming for us." Chapter 2. The Silver Mist pack house buzzed like a hive under threat. Word of the Alpha King's arrival had spread faster than wildfire, igniting both awe and fear among the pack wolves. For most, it was an honor. To host the ruler of all werewolves, the man said to be descended from the first bloodline of the moon goddess herself, was the highest privilege. For Elara, it was a nightmare creeping closer with every heartbeat. She sat in the kitchen, her delicate fingers tracing the edge of a chipped ceramic mug filled with lukewarm tea she hadn't touched. Her cousin Mina and 2 pack warriors moved briskly around her, preparing trays of food, cleaning every surface until it gleamed, and whispering nervously about the king's reputation. "They say Alpha King Lucian doesn't need his wolf to intimidate you," Mina murmured, her voice hushed but urgent. "One look in his golden eyes, and you'll feel as though you've been stripped bare, as though he can see into your thoughts." Elara forced a small, trembling laugh. "Sounds terrifying." She tilted her face away, pretending to stare into the distance blindly, her lashes hiding the truth of her sight. Mina, who had always believed her cousin's blindness, reached over and squeezed her hand sympathetically. "Don't worry, Elara. He won't bother with you. You're not a warrior, nor a politician, nor anyone important enough to catch his gaze. You're safe. Safe." The word cut through her chest like a dull blade. For 10 years she had survived under that fragile illusion of safety, and now it was being ripped apart at the seams. Her wolf paced inside her, restless, agitated, its silver fur bristling in anticipation. "He's close," her wolf whispered in her mind. "Can't you feel it, Elara? The bond? The pull?" Elara clenched her hands tightly around the mug until her knuckles turned white. She couldn't let her emotions show. If anyone suspected, if the Alpha King himself suspected, her entire lie would unravel. By nightfall, the air itself seemed to hold its breath. The great packhouse doors opened, and silence fell over the Silver Mist wolves who had gathered in the hall. He entered like a shadow wearing armor. Alpha King Lucian. He was taller than any man Elara had ever seen, his broad shoulders cloaked in a black coat lined with wolf fur, his stride carrying the weight of unquestionable authority. The hall seemed to bend around his presence, as though the air thickened, forcing everyone to bow their heads in submission before his gaze even swept across them. His hair was dark as midnight, his jaw sharp, carved in the cold lines of power. And his eyes, those infamous golden eyes, glowed with a predator's fire. The room trembled with silence as he walked forward, flanked by two deadly-looking royal guards. His wolf aura was suffocating, pressing down on the gathered pack members until knees buckled and throats dried. Elara lowered her lashes, her body curling inward like prey in the presence of its hunter. She let her eyes go still, unfocused, just as she had practiced 1,000 times. She tilted her head ever so slightly, feigning the way a blind woman listened to her surroundings. Her heart thundered violently against her ribs. He was close. Too close. The Alpha King's boots clicked against the polished floor, echoing through the hall. His presence was magnetic, demanding attention, dominance in every measured step. Then, as though pulled by an invisible string, his golden gaze landed on her. And it stayed. Elara's skin prickled under the weight of his stare. She fought to keep her breathing steady, her lashes low. She had survived 10 years in this lie. She could survive this moment. But inside, her wolf screamed. Mate! The word tore through her, shaking her bones, ripping through every fragile wall she had built. She bit the inside of her cheek until she tasted blood, willing her body not to react, willing her secret not to spill in front of the most dangerous wolf in existence. Lucian's lips curved, not in a smile, but in something far sharper. Amusement, perhaps, or curiosity. His voice, when he finally spoke, was a low rumble that vibrated through the hall and through Elara's chest. Who is she? The question snapped like a whip through the silence. Every head turned toward Elara, eyes wide with surprise. Mina gasped beside her. She is my cousin Elara, Mina stammered, her voice shaking. She has been blind since childhood, my king. She is harmless. Lucian tilted his head, his gaze never leaving Elara's face. She felt it, burning into her skin, peeling away her lies piece by piece. Blind, he repeated slowly, as though tasting the word. His golden eyes narrowed, and Elara knew in the pit of her soul that the Alpha King didn't believe her. Not for a second. Chapter 3. The feast of welcome had been laid out in the grand dining hall of Silver Mist Packhouse, but no amount of candlelight or roasted venison could brighten the atmosphere once Alpha King Lucian took his seat at the head of the table. The pack's own Alpha, a broad-shouldered man named Garrick, sat 2 chairs away from him, trying not to sweat. Through his shirt as he poured wine and made conversation that fell flat against the king's silence. Pack warriors lined the walls, backs straight, eyes down, every muscle tense with the unspoken command, do not provoke him. Elara sat at the far end of the long oak table, where she always chose to be, on the fringe, invisible, harmless. A blind girl wasn't worth notice, especially not among alphas, or so she had believed, but she could feel his eyes on her. Even now, even surrounded by courtiers and warriors, Alpha King Lucian's gaze pinned her like a predator circling its prey. The golden fire of his wolf shone faintly through his irises, not dulling, not hiding. It was as if his wolf too was watching her, questioning, prowling. Mina leaned closer, whispering in Elara's ear, "Don't move so stiffly. He's watching." Elara forced herself to relax, to keep up her mask of frailty. She placed her hands delicately in her lap and tilted her head, staring blankly into space as if her eyes were as useless as everyone thought. But inside, her wolf trembled, pacing restlessly. "He knows," her wolf hissed. "He doesn't believe us." Elara bit the inside of her cheek until she tasted iron. She couldn't falter now. She had built this prison for herself, and she had to endure it, because what lay outside of it was worse. The clink of a knife against a glass silenced the room. Lucian rose from his seat, towering, his black coat falling open to reveal the strength of his chest beneath a dark shirt. His gaze swept the room, and when he spoke, his voice carried the weight of command. "My thanks to Silver Mistpack for your hospitality," he said, his tone smooth but edged with steel. "I travel through many lands, and few can host me without trembling like pups. Your Alpha has shown me respect. For that, I am pleased." The pack exhaled in relief, but Lucian was not finished. Yet, I have found myself curious about something tonight. The room tensed. His gaze slid down the table, unhurried, until it landed squarely on Elara. Her breath caught. "The girl," he said, "the blind one." Elara's stomach dropped. All eyes turned to her, whispers rippling. Mina's hand tightened around hers under the table. Lucian's lips curved faintly, though it wasn't a smile. "Bring her forward." Alpha cleared his throat nervously. "My king, she cannot." That was not a request. The command in his tone left no room for argument. Elara rose slowly, every movement controlled, her heart hammering so loudly she swore everyone must hear it. Mina helped her stand, whispering, "Just act the way you always do. Don't panic." Elara nodded faintly, lowering her lashes, her steps small and halting as though she couldn't see. She let Mina guide her to the king's side, every fiber of her being screaming that this was a trap. Lucian's gaze raked over her, sharp, assessing. He tilted his head, golden eyes gleaming. "What is your name?" "Elara," she whispered, her voice steady despite the storm in her chest. "Elara," he repeated, as though savoring it. His voice was a low rumble that seemed to curl around her bones. "Tell me, Elara, how does a blind girl navigate a crowded hall without stumbling once?" Her breath stilled. A ripple of murmurs spread through the pack. She faltered, forcing her lashes low. "I count my steps. I listen." Lucian's eyes narrowed, sharp as a blade. He leaned closer, so near she could feel the warmth radiating from his body. Could smell the wild, intoxicating scent of pine, smoke, and wolf musk clinging to his skin. "Is that so?" His voice was quiet now, meant for her ears alone. "Then let us test it." Her pulse roared in her ears. Lucian lifted a silver goblet from the table and, without warning, dropped it. The heavy metal cup clattered against the stone floor, spinning before coming to a halt several feet away. The room was silent, all eyes on her. "Fetch it," Lucian ordered. Elara froze. If she moved too surely, too directly, her secret would be laid bare. If she stumbled too clumsily, he would know it was an act. Her wolf growled inside her. "He's cornered us." Elara lowered her lashes further, drawing in a shaky breath. "My king, fetch it," Lucian repeated, his tone softer this time. "More dangerous. Or shall I believe your blindness is nothing but a convenient lie?" Gasps broke out among the pack. Alpha visibly paled, sweat trickling down his temple. No one lied to the Alpha King. To be caught was death. Elara's hands trembled at her sides. Slowly she stepped away from Mina, moving toward the sound of the goblet. She counted her steps deliberately, dragging her fingers along the edge of the table as though using it to guide herself. Her breathing came shallow, too loud in her own ears. The goblet gleamed on the floor, just beyond her reach. She stopped, crouched slowly, and let her hand sweep the floor in hesitant arcs. She forced her movements to be imperfect, slow, clumsy. Her fingertips brushed cold silver. She grabbed it, rising shakily, and turned back toward the table. The silence in the hall was suffocating. When she reached him, she extended the goblet with both hands, her lashes lowered. "Here, my king." Lucian did not take it immediately. Instead, he leaned back in his chair, golden eyes burning into her like fire. "Impressive," he murmured, "for someone who cannot see." Elara's heart stopped. He took the goblet finally, his fingers brushing hers for the briefest. The contact sent a jolt of electricity ripping through her veins, the undeniable spark of the mate bond. Her wolf howled in triumph inside her. Ours. Elara fought to keep her expression blank, her body still. She could not betray herself now. But Lucian's gaze sharpened, and his lips curved ever so slightly. He knew. Chapter 4. The feast continued long after the test with the goblet, but Elara could barely taste the food on her plate. Every bite turned to ash in her mouth. Every laugh, every clink of cutlery felt muffled, distant, because all she could feel was the golden weight of Alpha King Lucian's gaze on her. She had returned to her seat beside Mina, feigning calm, but her hands trembled under the table. Her wolf prowled inside her, furious and restless. "We cannot hide from him," her wolf snarled. "He is our mate. He sees us." Elara shut her eyes tightly, willing her wolf into silence. "No. If he knows, if he claims us, it will destroy everything." Mina, oblivious to the storm raging inside her cousin, whispered nervously, "You did so well, Elara. I thought for sure he'd catch you, but you fooled him." Elara forced a faint smile, though her lips quivered. Yes, fooled him, but deep in her bones, she knew. Lucian wasn't fooled. Not for a second. The night dragged on, and when at last the feast ended, the pack members filed out, whispering about the king's frightening aura and his strange fixation on the blind girl. Elara prayed she could slip away with them, escape into the solitude of her small room at the edge of the pack house. But fate was merciless. Elara. Her name rolled from the king's tongue like velvet-wrapped steel. She froze mid-step. Lucian had risen from his seat, towering over everyone, his golden eyes glowing faintly in the torchlight. The entire hall stilled. "Stay," he commanded. The word was not loud, but it carried the undeniable force of alpha command. Every wolf in the room felt the ripple of it through their skin. Some even lowered their heads instinctively, though the command had not been directed at them. Elara's breath caught in her throat. She turned slowly, feigning confusion, tilting her head like someone who could not see where the voice came from. "My king?" His lips curved faintly, predatorily. "Join me." Mina shot Elara a panicked look, as if to say, "Refuse him, and you'll be executed on the spot." Elara's heart pounded as she allowed herself to be led toward him. Lucian dismissed everyone else with a flick of his hand, and the room emptied quickly, leaving behind only the low flicker of torches, the scent of roasted meat, and the unbearable tension between them. Lucian stood by the tall windows that overlooked the moonlit forest, his back partially turned to her. His posture was deceptively relaxed, hands clasped loosely behind him, broad, shoulders at ease, but every inch of him radiated coiled strength. "Come closer," he said without turning. Elara obeyed, her steps careful, her eyes downcast. She stopped several feet away, clutching her hands together to still their trembling. For a moment, silence stretched between them, heavy as lead. Then Lucian finally turned, and his golden eyes pinned her in place. "You're a convincing actress," he said softly, almost admiringly, but not convincing enough. Her stomach plummeted. I don't understand. Do not lie to me." His voice was low, but it carried the edge of a growl. The sound resonated through the room, through her bones, through her very wolf. "You tracked that goblet by sound, yes, but your head turned toward it the moment it fell. Your eyes followed it." Elara froze, her throat closing. Lucian took a step toward her. The air seemed to thicken with his nearness, with the raw force of his dominance. His scent, pine smoke and winter steel, wrapped around her like a chain. "You are not blind." The words struck like lightning. Her secret, 10 years of lies, 10 years of sacrifice, laid bare in an instant. Elara's breathing quickened, panic clawing at her chest. I... Lucian's gaze sharpened, his wolf glowing just beneath his skin. Why? Why the deception? Tears stung her eyes. She tried to speak, but her throat tightened, choking on words she had never dared voice aloud. Lucian's hand shot forward, gripping her chin firmly but not cruelly, forcing her to lift her face toward him. Her lashes fluttered, her storm-gray eyes meeting his golden ones. The spark of the mate bond flared again, hotter, brighter, undeniable. His pupils dilated, his chest rose sharply, as if the truth had struck him too. "Moon above." He breathed. "You're mine." The world tilted. Elara's body trembled violently as her wolf howled with wild joy inside her. The bond was alive, blazing between them. Her every instinct screamed to submit, to fall into him, to accept what had always been fated. But her human heart shattered. "No," she whispered, voice breaking. Lucian's grip on her chin tightened, his expression darkening. "No?" His voice was a dangerous growl. "You dare deny the bond?" Tears spilled freely down her cheeks now, silent and hot. I can't be yours." The Alpha King's golden eyes burned like twin suns, fury and disbelief swirling in their depth. "You lie about your sight, you lie about who you are. And now you deny what the moon goddess herself has decreed?" Elara's sob caught in her throat. Her knees weakened, but she forced herself to stay upright. "You don't understand," she whispered. "If I accept you, if you claim me, everything will fall apart. The prophecy." She cut herself off, horror clamping her mouth shut. But it was too late. Lucian's eyes narrowed, hunger and fury glinting like a blade. What prophecy? Elara's heart sank to the pit of her stomach. She had said too much. The Alpha King stepped closer, looming over her, his voice low and lethal. "You will tell me everything, Elara," he vowed, "even if I have to tear the truth from your very soul." And for the first time, Elara realized the truth. The prison of lies she had built for 10 years had just shattered, and now she was trapped in a cage far more dangerous, one ruled by the Alpha King himself. Chapter 5. The torches in the grand hall had burned low, painting the walls in restless shadows. Outside, the wind howled through the forest like a chorus of wolves, but inside, the only sound was the thundering of Elara's heart and the steady, commanding breath of the Alpha King. He stood before her, every inch of him radiating dominance, golden eyes locked on her like a hunter cornering prey. She could feel the weight of his gaze pressing down on her skin, searing through her bones, tugging at the deepest parts of her soul where her wolf cowered and whimpered. "Speak." The single word cracked through the silence, deep and sharp. His voice wasn't raised, but it carried the force of alpha command. Elara's knees nearly buckled under the weight of it. She bit her lip until it bled, shaking her head. "I can't," she whispered hoarsely. Lucian's jaw tightened. "You will." His wolf surged to the surface. She could feel it in the shift of the air, in the way her lungs stuttered as if she were drowning. His aura was suffocating, powerful enough to make even the strongest alphas in the land bow. But Elara fought it, clinging to her fragile resistance like a drowning woman to driftwood. "You don't understand," she whispered, tears streaking down her cheeks. "If I tell you, if I let you claim me, everyone I love will die." His golden eyes flickered dangerously. "So you would rather deny me? Deny us?" Elara's chest heaved. Her wolf whimpered, torn between instinct and fear. "I would rather live a lie than see my world burn." Lucian stepped closer, towering over her, his heat radiating against her trembling frame. He lowered his voice to a lethal whisper. "Do not insult me with riddles. There is no lie that can bind fate. If the moon goddess decreed you mine, you are mine. Nothing, not a prophecy, not a pact, not even death, changes that." The words sent a violent shiver through her. The bond flared between them again, undeniable, ripping through the walls she'd built for a decade. It was a sensation both exquisite and terrifying, fire threading through her veins, heat pooling in her belly, her very soul leaning toward his. Elara squeezed her eyes shut, shaking her head violently as though she could shut it all out. "No, no. You don't know what you're saying. You don't know what's been foretold." Lucian's hand shot out, gripping her chin with firm, unyielding fingers, forcing her to face him. Her storm-gray eyes met his golden fire, and the spark exploded between them, pure, primal, intoxicating. "Then tell me," he growled. "Tell me what prophecy has made you live like a coward for 10 years. Elara's lips parted, trembling. She wanted to resist, wanted to stay silent. But the pressure of his aura, the unrelenting pull of the mate bond, the command, in his voice, it all pressed against her until her resistance cracked. Her voice came out low, broken, and laced with a pain she had carried too long. "When I was 13, the elders told me that I was destined to be the mate of the Alpha King, that I would bring him power, yes, but at a cost." Lucian's brows furrowed, his grip on her chin loosening ever so slightly. "What cost?" Elara's breath hitched. Tears slid down her cheeks, hot and bitter. "That if I accepted you, If I let myself be claimed, the bond would ignite a war unlike any before. Blood would soak the earth, packs would fall, and the ones I love would die first. The words hung in the air like smoke, heavy and suffocating. Lucian's jaw tightened, but his golden eyes burned hotter, not dimmer. He leaned closer, his forehead nearly brushing hers, his voice a low growl that rumbled against her very bones. Do you think hiding has saved them? Do you think living a lie has changed your fate? You insult the moon goddess with your fear. Elara's breath hitched as his hand shifted, no longer gripping but cupping her face. His touch was warm, searing, almost tender, but his voice remained steel. You are mine, Elara. You have always been mine. You can fight it, deny it, curse it, but you cannot break it. Her wolf whimpered in desperate agreement, howling mate, mate, mate. Her body betrayed her, leaning unconsciously into his warmth, her lips parting, on a shaky breath that smelled faintly of pine and smoke from his skin. Elara's voice cracked. I don't want this. Lucian's lips curved, not in amusement, but in something darker, more dangerous. Liar. He pressed closer, his nose brushing the curve of her jaw, inhaling her scent deeply, possessively. Her knees buckled, and only his arms sliding firmly around her waist kept her standing. The spark of the bond roared through her, her wolf whimpering with helpless submission. You reek of fear, he murmured against her skin, but beneath it, you smell of longing. You crave this bond as much as I do. Her eyes flew open, wide, filled with panic. Stop. But her voice was a whisper, weak, betraying her. Lucian's golden eyes burned into hers as he pulled back, his expression both fierce and conflicted. For a moment, the mighty Alpha King looked almost tormented. You've run from me for 10 years, he said, his voice low, but you can't run anymore, not from me, not from fate. He released her suddenly, stepping back, his jaw tight, his fists clenched, at his sides as if fighting the urge to take what was already his. His gaze raked over her one last time, searing her to her core. Rest tonight, he ordered, though his voice trembled with restrained hunger. Tomorrow you will tell me everything, every lie, every secret. And if you don't, I will tear the truth from you myself. With that, he turned and strode away, his black cloak trailing behind him like the shadow of a storm. Elara collapsed to her knees the moment he left, her chest heaving, her wolf howling in both triumph and despair. The bond was alive, undeniable, and for the first time she realized the terrifying truth. No matter how far she ran, no matter how many lies she spun, the Alpha King would never let her go. Chapter 6. The night after the interrogation was sleepless. Elara lay on the narrow bed in her small chamber at the edge of the silver mist packhouse, staring into the darkness. Her wolf paced restlessly inside her, whispering mate in every heartbeat, every breath. But Elara's mind was consumed by the prophecy, the blood-soaked visions that had haunted her since childhood. If she gave in, if she let the Alpha King claim her, the world would burn. She saw it in every nightmare, forests ablaze, rivers running red, the pack's faces lifeless in the dirt. Tears burned her eyes as she curled onto her side, pressing a trembling hand against her chest. I can't let him destroy everything I've tried to protect. But even as she told herself this, her body betrayed her, aching for his warmth, the way his touch had ignited fire in her veins. A knock shattered the silence. Elara. The voice was deep, commanding, and unmistakable. The voice that haunted her every thought since he had spoken her name for the first time. Her heart seized. My king, came the muffled, trembling voice of a servant from beyond her door. He summons you. To his chambers. The words struck like lightning. Elara sat upright, her hands clenching in the blankets. Summoned, at this hour, to his chambers. Mina, who had been asleep on a pallet near the bed, shot upright, eyes wide in horror. Elara, no. You can't. He'll claim you. Elara's throat worked, but no words came out. Claim her, the very thing she had feared, the very thing she had sacrificed 10 years of her life to avoid. But how could she refuse? To deny the Alpha King's summons was to court death. Her legs shook as she rose. Mina clutched her hand desperately. Maybe if you pretend to fall ill. No, Elara whispered, her voice raw. If I resist, he'll know for certain. He already knows too much. Mina's eyes filled with tears. Then what will you do? Elara swallowed hard. Survive. The corridors of the pack house were dim and silent as she was escorted by 2 royal guards. Their black armor gleamed dully in the torchlight, their expressions unreadable. She felt the weight of their presence like iron shackles. Every step brought her closer to him. Every step made her wolf more restless, her pulse more erratic. Her wolf whined, eager, desperate, but Elara forced her lips into a faint smile of practiced helplessness, tilting her head as though she needed the guards to guide her. At last, they stopped before the heavy double doors of the Alpha King's chambers. The guards bowed stiffly and opened the doors without a word. Elara's breath caught. The chamber was vast, carved of black stone softened with rich furs and silken draperies. A great fire roared in the hearth, its light dancing across shelves lined with ancient tomes and weapons that gleamed like predators' teeth. The bed at the far end was massive, draped in furs dark as midnight. And there he was. Lucian stood by the fire, his broad frame cast in flickering light, his black coat shed, leaving only a dark tunic that clung to his chest. His golden eyes lifted the moment she entered, locking onto her with an intensity that made her legs weaken. "Leave us," he commanded the guards. The doors closed behind her with a heavy thud, leaving her alone with the most dangerous wolf in existence. Lucian studied her in silence for a long moment. The air grew thick, charged, every crackle of the fire seeming to echo in her ears. Finally, he spoke, his voice low, measured, but burning with something fierce beneath the surface. "Come here." Her body tensed, her instincts screaming to run. But her feet betrayed her, carrying her forward one hesitant step at a time, until she stood only a breath away from him. Lucian's gaze raked over her, lingering on her lips, her trembling hands, the rapid rise and fall of her chest. He reached out suddenly, brushing a strand of dark hair from her face. His fingers lingered, tracing her cheek, her jaw. "You lied to me," he said softly, though the words cut sharper than steel. "For 10 years, you lived a life of deceit. Do you know what happens to liars who insult the crown?" Elara's breath trembled. Death. Lucian's lips curved faintly, but his golden eyes burned hotter. "And yet, I cannot bring myself to kill you. Do you know why?" Her voice cracked. "Because of the bond." "Because you are mine," he corrected, his voice fierce, unyielding. "The moon herself carved you from my rib, molded you from my soul. You think you can deny that with tricks and shadows? You cannot." Elara's tears spilled freely, her chest heaving. "I never wanted this. I never wanted you." The words tasted like poison. Her wolf howled in protest, clawing at her insides. Lucian's gaze darkened, his nostrils flaring as if he could scent her lie. He seized her wrist, pulling her flush against his chest, his heat burning through her thin dress. "Liar," he growled against her ear. "Your wolf betrays you. Every breath you take reeks of desire, every heartbeat pounds for me." Elara's knees buckled. She trembled in his grip, torn between terror and the undeniable pull of the bond. "Please," she whispered, though she didn't know if she was begging him to stop or begging him to never let go. Lucian's hand slid from her wrist to her waist, holding her firmly in place. His golden eyes blazed, his voice rough. "I will have the truth from you, Elara, all of it. Why you hid, what prophecy binds you, and why you think you can run from me." Her breath shuddered. "And if I refuse?" Lucian's lips brushed her temple, his voice a growl wrapped in velvet. "Then I will strip away every lie until only your truth remains. And when I'm done, you will beg me to claim you." Elara's wolf whimpered in submission, and her body swayed helplessly against his. The bond roared between them, fire and lightning, and she knew she was standing on the edge of ruin. Because whether by force of destiny or by the ruthless will of the Alpha King, her lies were unraveling, and soon there would be nothing left to hide. Chapter 7. The air in the Alpha King's chamber was thick with smoke and tension, every breath heavy with unspoken truths. Elara's pulse thundered in her ears as Lucian held her pressed against him, her body trembling with a mixture of fear and forbidden longing. She could feel every inch of him, solid muscle, unyielding power, and the fierce warmth that radiated from his skin. It was intoxicating, like standing too close to the sun. Her wolf howled inside her, claws raking at her heart, begging to surrender, to yield, to let him mark her. But Elara bit back the instinct. She clung to the image of burning forests, to the prophecy that had haunted her dreams. If she gave in, if she let him claim her, the world would shatter. Lucian's thumb brushed over her jaw, forcing her gaze up to meet his. His golden eyes blazed like molten fire, unrelenting, piercing as though he could see through every veil she wrapped around herself. "You think you can resist me?" he murmured, voice low and sharp. "You've hidden behind lies for 10 years, little wolf. But tell me, can you lie to your own soul?" Her lips trembled. I have no choice." His grip tightened around her waist, pulling her closer until there was no space between them. His breath was hot against her ear, his voice a velvet growl that sent shivers racing down her spine. "There is always a choice, but understand this." His hand slid up her back, fingers splaying across her spine in a possessive grip. "Choosing to defy me is choosing ruin. For yourself, for your pack, for everything you've tried to protect." Elara stiffened. His words struck too close to the truth, clawing at the secret she had buried all her life. Did he know? Could he sense it through the bond? That she was the girl of prophecy, the one destined to bring either salvation or destruction depending on who claimed her? Her lips parted. But before she could answer, a sharp knock echoed against the chamber doors. Lucian's eyes flickered with irritation. He released her slowly, reluctantly, as if it took effort to let her go. "Enter," he barked. The heavy doors creaked open, and a guard stepped inside, bowing his head. "My king, forgive the intrusion. A messenger has arrived from the Crimson Fang Pack. Urgent matters, regarding the prophecy." Elara's blood ran cold. The prophecy, always the prophecy. Lucian's gaze flickered back to her immediately, suspicion and curiosity sharpening like blades. "I'll hear them soon," he said to the guard. His tone left no room for argument. "Leave us." The guard bowed again and withdrew, closing the door. Lucian turned back to her. Golden eyes narrowed. "Interesting timing, don't you think?" Elara's breath quickened. She fought to school her features into blankness, but she knew the fear was already written across her face. Lucian stepped closer again, circling her like a predator toying with prey. 10 years you hid in plain sight. 10 years you pretended to be weak, blind, fragile. His voice lowered, dangerously soft. But the world is shifting. Rivals grow bold. Prophecies stir. And you... He stopped before her, his hand rising to cup her face once more. "You appear from the shadows at the very moment fate trembles." Her voice cracked. "It's only coincidence." He leaned in, his lips grazing the edge of her jaw, his voice a husky whisper. "Liar." Her knees wavered, her body burning beneath his touch. Every instinct screamed to run, but her wolf whined, tail tucked, torn between fear and submission. Lucian drew back just enough to look her in the eye, golden irises burning with feral hunger. "You will tell me the truth, Elara. I will strip it from your lips if I must." His mouth brushed against her temple, his breath warm. "But mark me, your truth will bind you to me, whether you wish it or not." She trembled. "And if that truth destroys us both?" Lucian's lips curved into a faint, dangerous smile. "Then let the world burn." Later that night, Elara sat alone in her chamber, trembling hands wrapped around a goblet of untouched water. Mina knelt beside her, eyes wide with fear. "What happened? What did he do?" Elara swallowed, her throat raw. "He knows," she whispered. "He doesn't have proof yet, but he knows." Mina paled. "Then you have to run, before he—" "No." Elara shook her head fiercely, though her eyes glistened. If I run now, it will confirm everything. He'll hunt me down. He'll never stop. He's the Alpha King, Mina. There's nowhere I could hide that he wouldn't find me." Mina's voice broke. "Then what will you do?" Elara's hand trembled as she pressed it to her chest, where the mate bond thrummed like a drumbeat in her veins. She hated herself for the truth. "I don't know." The next morning, whispers spread through the Silver Mist packhouse like wildfire. Servants muttered in corridors, warriors shared hushed words. The blind girl was no longer invisible. Everyone knew the Alpha King had summoned her to his chambers, and everyone wondered why. Some whispered she was his mistress. Others claimed she was a witch. A few, the boldest, dared to murmur of something far more dangerous, that she was his mate. The word reached Lucian, of course. He sat in the High Council chamber, his advisors gathered, when one dared to voice the rumor aloud. "My king," the elder said, voice quivering, "forgive me, but the people talk. They say the girl, Elara, is not what she seems. Some even whisper she is your destined." Lucian's lips curved into a dangerous smile. His golden eyes glowed like twin suns. "Let them whisper," he said softly. "Soon, they will know the truth. And when they do, the world itself will bow." Chapter 8. The great hall of the Silver Mist Pack was alive with murmurs and rustling garments. The tension so thick it might as well have been mist rolling through the stone corridors. The long wooden table stretched the length of the chamber, carved with the emblems of wolf packs older than memory itself. At its head sat Lucian, the Alpha King, his golden eyes smoldering, his presence suffocating, every inch of him radiating authority and untamed power. Elara sat at his left, her hands folded tightly in her lap, her knuckles white. She hated this seat, hated the way eyes slid toward her with suspicion, curiosity, and in some cases, thinly veiled hostility. For 10 years she had been invisible, a shadow that no one cared to notice. Now, under the Alpha King's claim, she was the center of attention. Every breath she took dissected by the room. Rival Alphas had traveled days to attend this sudden gathering. Some bore the arrogance of their lineage on their shoulders. Others masked their fear beneath practiced smiles. They had all heard the rumors. The blind girl who had been hidden for a decade now sat beside the most powerful wolf in the kingdom. And not by accident. Lucian's voice cut through the muttering like a blade. "Speak your concerns, and be swift about it." The first to rise was Alpha Cormac of the Crimson Fang Pack, his broad frame casting a shadow as he placed his fists on the table. His eyes were sharp as steel, his tone heavy with accusation. "My king," he began, "we honor your call, but we cannot ignore the whispers. There is talk of prophecy, talk of a hidden wolf who could alter the balance of our world, and talk that she," he jabbed a finger toward Elara without shame, "is the one." Elara's breath caught in her throat. Heat rushed to her cheeks, her stomach twisting. Lucian's golden gaze flicked lazily toward the accusing Alpha, but there was nothing lazy in the menace that coiled beneath it. "And if she is?" he asked smoothly. A ripple of unease passed through the chamber. Cormac's jaw tightened. "Then she is too dangerous to sit at your side. You know the prophecy as well as we do. She who hides in shadow shall bring forth fire. Her bond shall crown kings or burn empires to ash." The words echoed like a curse, reverberating off the stone walls. Elara's heart pounded so violently she thought they would hear it. Lucian rose from his chair with a grace that was almost inhuman. Even without shifting, he was wolf, his dominance pressing down on every living creature in the room. Alphas who had led armies found themselves lowering their eyes, their wolves whimpering under the weight of his aura. "Do you dare stand in my hall and tell me what is too dangerous?" Lucian's voice was soft, but beneath it was a roar that could shake mountains. "Do you think your fear outweighs my claim?" Cormac's lips parted, but no sound came. The bond thrummed violently within Elara, her wolf clawing at her ribs, desperate to submit to the Alpha King's power. Lucian stepped closer to her, placing a hand on the back of her chair, his presence engulfing her like a wildfire. "Look at her," he demanded, his voice slicing through the silence. "Does she look like destruction? Does she look like the end of empires?" Elara's throat constricted. She wanted to scream yes. Yes, she was destruction. She had seen it in visions. She had seen herself drenched in blood, standing over burning ruins with a shadowed crown heavy on her brow. But she could not speak, because Lucian's warmth pressed against her, and his scent, smoke, pine, and something, darker, more primal, was unraveling her resolve thread by fragile thread. The hall held its breath. Then, at last, Lucian's lips curved into a wolfish smile, deadly and beautiful. "She is mine," he declared, his voice final, undeniable. "And through me, she is under the protection of the crown. Whoever challenges that—" His golden eyes swept the room like flames devouring dry grass. "Challenges me." A murmur of assent, reluctant and fearful, spread through the alphas. No one dared rise against him, not openly. But Elara knew what those sidelong glances meant. They would not forget this. They would wait and plot and circle like wolves scenting blood in the snow. That night, the palace was restless. Elara retreated to her chamber, though it was no true refuge. Every step echoed with the whispers of prophecy. Every shadow seemed to reach for her secrets. She stood by the window, staring out at the moonlight flooding the courtyard. Her hands trembled against the stone sill. When the door opened behind her, she already knew who it was. Lucian's presence filled the chamber before he spoke, the air crackling with something that was both danger and desire. He shut the door with deliberate finality, as though cutting her off from every escape. "You heard them," he said quietly, his voice rough with restrained fury. "They know something. And so do you." Elara's chest tightened. "Lucian, please, don't." His steps were measured, predatory, until he stood inches behind her. His hand brushed her hair aside, baring the vulnerable column of her neck. His breath grazed her skin, scorching and possessive. "Don't lie to me. Not when I can feel it every time you breathe. The bond screams for me, Elara. And you—" His lips hovered just above her pulse, making it race. "You're still fighting it." Her knees weakened. Her wolf whined, desperate, begging for his bite, for the mark that would seal them. She gripped the windowsill until her nails cracked. "If you mark me, everything ends. Don't you see? I'll bring ruin." Lucian growled, low and primal, the sound vibrating against her skin. His hands slammed against the stone on either side of her, caging her in. "You will bring ruin only if I let you, and I am not a man who loses. Not to fate, not to prophecy." Her breath hitched as he pressed closer, his lips brushing her ear. "You are mine," he whispered, voice husky, dark, "and I will not let destiny steal what belongs to me." The bond surged violently, nearly knocking her to her knees. Elara turned, unable to resist the magnetic pull, her eyes locking with his. Golden fire. Fierce and unyielding. The moment teetered on the edge of no return. His lips hovered above hers, his fangs glinting faintly as his wolf demanded he claim her. Elara's wolf howled in desperate submission. And then— a scream shattered the night. Both of them froze. The door burst open, Mina stumbling inside, her face pale as death. "My lady, my king, there's an attack." She gasped for breath. "The Crimson Fang Pack, they've breached the outer walls. They're demanding her." Elara's blood ran ice cold. Lucian's eyes narrowed, his jaw tightening, his wolf snarling beneath his skin. He grabbed Elara's wrist, dragging her against him possessively. "Let them come," he growled, his voice lethal. "They think they can take what is mine. Tonight, they learn why I am king." And as his words echoed through the chamber, Elara felt the sick twist of fate tightening around her throat. The prophecy was unfolding. Chapter 9. The sound of war arrived before the sight of it. A low, bone-deep rumble shook the foundations of the palace as the alarm bells split the night air. Wolves howled outside the gates. Savage, vengeful, desperate. The courtyard below erupted into chaos as the Crimson Fang warriors poured in, their howls joining with the clash of steel and the screams of guards. Elara's heart slammed against her ribs as she gripped the windowsill. She could smell it, blood, fire, and the tang of wolf rage filling the night. Her wolf snarled inside her, both terrified and hungry. Lucian didn't hesitate. In a fluid motion, he released her wrist and ripped his cloak from his shoulders, his muscles. taut beneath his tunic, his aura swelling until it consumed the entire chamber. His golden eyes glowed feral, his fangs flashing in the dim light. The Alpha King was no longer a man. He was Predator incarnate, the very embodiment of the wolf's wrath. "Stay behind me," he ordered, voice low, primal, every word edged with command. Elara's throat closed. Her entire body screamed to obey him, her wolf submitting instantly to the authority laced in his tone. But something else, something older, darker, whispered inside her. "If you stay behind him, he will bleed for you. If you run, he will die for you." The prophecy, always the prophecy. Mina clutched the doorframe, shaking. "My king, there are too many." Lucian's growls silenced her. "There are never too many." He grabbed Elara's chin, forcing her to meet his burning gaze. "Do not leave this chamber. Do not step into that battlefield." His forehead brushed hers for the briefest of moments, an intimate touch that seared through her. His voice dropped, softer but no less commanding. "I will return to you." Then he was gone. The chamber door slammed shut behind him, and his aura vanished down the hall like a storm descending upon the earth. Elara staggered back, pressing a trembling hand to her chest. She couldn't breathe. Her wolf paced and howled inside her, restless, furious at being caged. Every instinct screamed that she should follow him, that her place was at his side. But the prophecy whispered, "Blood will fall. Fire will rise. The king will wear the crown of shadows." Her knees buckled. She slid down against the cold stone wall, her vision blurring, her hands clutching her skull. The visions came violently. Flashes of the battlefield. Lucian, his golden eyes blazing, his claws raking through enemies as if they were nothing. His roar shook the ground, terrifying even the bravest alpha. Then, blood. His chest torn open, crimson soaking his skin. Elara saw herself in the vision, standing over him, her hands drenched in blood that wasn't her own. The ground around them cracked with fire. Above, a crown of shadows descended onto Lucian's head, darker than the night itself. Her wolf howled, and the vision shattered like glass. "Elara!" Mina's frantic voice dragged her back. "We need to move, my lady. They'll reach the upper halls soon." Elara forced herself to stand, her legs trembling. Her heart warred with her mind. She wanted to obey Lucian. She wanted to stay hidden, safe. But the vision burned behind her eyes. If she stayed, he would die. She took a step toward the door. "No!" Mina grabbed her arm. "He told you to wait." Elara's wolf growled, snapping her restraint. "And if I wait, he bleeds." Her voice was raw, trembling, but it carried a strange power Mina had never heard before. For the first time, the maid recoiled, fear flickering in her eyes, not of Elara's frailty but of her strength. Elara wrenched free and ran. The palace corridors were a battlefield. Crimson Fang wolves had broken through, their forms shifting in flashes of fur and fang. Loyal guards fought tooth and claw to hold them back, but the sheer numbers were overwhelming. Elara's bare feet slapped against the blood-slick floor as she sprinted through the chaos. Wolves lunged at her, their eyes burning with recognition, as if they knew exactly who she was. But each time claws slashed toward her, something unseen flared. A wave of invisible force burst outward from her chest, throwing enemies back as though struck by lightning. Wolves slammed into walls, yelping in shock. Elara stumbled, staring at her hands, trembling. What was happening to her? The prophecy. She who hides in shadow shall bring forth fire. She didn't have time to think. She ran harder, following the pulse of the bond, the burning thread in her soul that led her straight to Lucian. She found him in the courtyard, and for a moment she could only stare. The Alpha King was death made flesh. His wolf had pushed to the surface, golden fur streaking across his skin, his claws dripping with blood. He tore through the Crimson Fang warriors like they were nothing, his roar shaking the walls, his dominance crushing the battlefield. No wolf could meet his eyes, no warrior could withstand his wrath, but there were too many. For every wolf Lucian ripped apart, 3 more closed in. Blood coated his arms, his chest heaved with exertion, and yet he fought like a god of war. "Elara!" His voice cut through the chaos the instant he saw her, his eyes flashing in fury. "I told you to stay, Before she could respond, an enemy wolf lunged for her throat. Lucian moved faster than thought. He slammed into the attacker mid-air, tearing its head from its body. With a snarl so savage it silenced the courtyard for a heartbeat. He turned on her, his chest heaving, blood dripping from his... "Do you want me to lose my mind? Do you want me to kill everything that touches you?" Tears burned her eyes. "I saw you die, Lucian. I saw it." For the first time his fury faltered. His golden eyes narrowed, confusion, and something raw flickering in their depths. "What did you say?" Before she could answer, the Crimson Fang Alpha himself stepped forward from the ranks. Cormac. His wolf form loomed massive, fur dark as night, eyes burning red with fury. "She is mine by prophecy," Cormac snarled. "You think you can protect her? Then watch her bring your ruin." Elara's vision blurred again. Fire, blood, shadow. Lucian's chest torn open. "No," she whispered, her voice trembling. "Not tonight." And before Lucian could stop her, Elara stepped forward. The ground shook beneath her. Heat surged through her veins, her wolf howling as flames burst across the courtyard. Crimson light flared from her body, sending wolves stumbling back in terror. Elara's eyes glowed with fire and shadow. For the first time, the mask she had worn for 10 years shattered completely. She was no blind girl, she was the prophecy. Chapter 10. The courtyard had gone silent. The world seemed to hold its breath, even amidst the crackle of fire and the distant screams of wolves still locked in battle at the palace gates. Elara stood at the center of it all, her body trembling, her breath heaving, in sharp bursts, but her eyes burned with an otherworldly light. Shadows twisted around her, curling like smoke, while flames licked across the stones as if the earth itself bent to her will. She was no fragile, blind girl anymore. No weakling to be hidden in the dark. She was the prophecy in flesh, the girl of fire and shadow, the hidden weapon the goddess had whispered about for centuries. Lucian stared at her. The Alpha King, drenched in blood, his claws slick with crimson, his golden eyes glowing, actually paused. For the first time since the battle began, his feral rage stilled as he looked at her like a man on the edge of a precipice. "Elara." His voice was hoarse, torn from deep in his chest. It wasn't his usual command. It was raw, awed, almost afraid. Her wolf snarled within her, but not in fear. No, it stretched, alive, triumphant. After years of chains, of silence, of pretending to be blind and weak, her wolf surged with dominance, with light. It wanted to fight. It wanted to burn. The Crimson Fang Alpha, Cormac, growled low in his throat, snapping the moment into pieces. His massive wolf form prowled forward, red eyes burning into Elara. "So it's true," he spat, voice a deep, rumbling snarl. "The girl of shadow and flame, hidden all this time. You should have been mine." The shadows around Elara pulsed, rising higher, curling around her like a crown. Her voice, when she spoke, didn't sound like her own. It echoed, layered with her wolf's growl, ancient and commanding. "I will never belong to you." Cormac laughed, sharp and bitter. "Then you will burn beside him, little Seer. The prophecy will devour you both." He lunged. The courtyard exploded into chaos again. Wolves surged forward, answering their alpha's call, claws flashing, fangs bared. Lucian roared, throwing himself into the fray like a storm unleashed, his claws raking through fur and flesh, his dominance cracking the air like thunder. But Elara didn't run. This time she stood her ground, the flames bent to her will. Shadows coiled at her command. When the first wolf leapt for her throat, Elara raised her hand instinctively, and a whip of fire lashed out, slamming the beast to the ground. Another lunged from the side, but the shadows rose like walls, intercepting him mid-air, dragging him down into darkness that swallowed his screams. Gasps echoed from both friend and foe alike. Wolves froze, staring at her as though she had grown a second head. Lucian's golden gaze snapped toward her in mid-fight, his chest heaving, his jaw clenched. There was fury there, yes, rage that she had disobeyed him, that she was exposing herself in the middle of battle. But beneath the fury was something darker, hungrier. Possession. The bond between them thrummed, alive, pulling tighter, fiercer, until Elara felt it in her bones. His wolf clawed inside him, desperate to claim her, to sink his fangs into her neck and brand her as his. She staggered as another vision slammed into her skull. Lucian, on his knees, blood pouring from his chest, a crown of shadows hovering above his head. Cormac standing triumphant, his fangs dripping with blood. Herself, hands burning, torn between saving Lucian and destroying everything. Her knees buckled, but before she could collapse, Lucian was there. He moved faster than thought, cutting down 3 enemies in a blur of claws before scooping her up into his arms. His body was a furnace, his chest slick with blood, his heart pounding against her ear. He bared his fangs at the wolves still standing, his roar vibrating through her bones. "She is mine." The force of his dominance blasted across the courtyard, so strong that even allies staggered, baring their throats in instinctive submission. Wolves from the Crimson Fang whimpered, some dropping to their knees, their will crushed beneath his kingly command. But Cormac only laughed. His massive wolf form loomed above the flames, red eyes fixed on Elara. "Yours?" His voice was dripping with venom. "She belongs to the Prophecy King, and the prophecy will eat you alive." Elara, clinging to Lucian's neck, whispered hoarsely, "Don't listen to him." Lucian's gaze snapped down to her, golden and furious, yet terrified. "What are you, Elara?" His voice cracked against her ear, harsh, desperate. "What have you been hiding from me all this time?" She opened her mouth to speak, but the shadows answered for her. They curled higher around her body, solidifying into jagged black shapes, forming a crown that hovered above her head. Fire blazed at her feet, spreading outward, forming a blazing circle that consumed the ground. The wolves gasped, some backing away in terror. Lucian froze, his breath hot and ragged against her skin. His eyes locked on the crown of shadows above her, recognition flickering in their depths. "The Shadow Crown," he whispered, his voice barely audible. Her body convulsed as the vision forced itself fully into reality. She screamed, fire and shadow bursting outward in a violent wave that knocked wolves back, scattering them like leaves in a storm. Lucian shielded her, holding her tight, his body absorbing the brunt of the blast as though he could protect her even from herself. When the wave ended, silence fell again. The courtyard was scorched black. Bodies of enemy wolves lay scattered across the stones, burned, broken, silenced. The flames receded slowly, shadows curling back into her body like smoke. Elara trembled violently, blood dripping from her nose. Her vision blurred, her body weak. Lucian gripped her face, forcing her to look at him, his golden eyes wild with fury and fear. "Never," his voice broke, his jaw clenching. "Never do that again." Her lips parted, but no words came. She only stared at him, trembling, as his wolf surged to the surface, his breath ragged, his fangs bared. His thumb traced her lower lip, rough, demanding. His voice was a growl, both warning and plea. "Do you have any idea what you've just done to me? I can't hold back anymore. One more vision, one more risk, one more act of defiance, and I'll mark you here, in front of them all." The words made her blood run hot. The bond between them flared, alive, dangerous, undeniable. She could feel his wolf's hunger pressing against her skin, his desire to sink his fangs into her neck and make her his forever. But the prophecy still hung above them. If he marked her now, would it save him, or destroy them both? Elara's voice shook as she whispered the only truth she knew. "If you claim me, Lucian, you'll never let me go, not even if it kills you." His golden eyes burned, his chest heaving, his claws digging into the stone beneath them. He lowered his forehead against hers, his entire body trembling with the effort to resist. "I would rather die with your scent on my tongue than live without you." The shadow crown above her pulsed once, glowing darker, heavier, as if sealing his vow. Chapter 11. The palace felt like it was holding its breath. The courtyard was still smoldering, the scent of burnt stone and singed fur heavy in the night air. Wolves limped back toward the great hall, carrying their wounded, dragging the bodies of the dead. Guards and servants whispered in corners, their eyes darting toward the center of destruction where Elara and Lucian still stood. Lucian had not let go of her. His arm remained clamped around her waist, his body pressed tight against hers, as though daring anyone, friend or foe, to try and pull her from him. His golden eyes burned with a savage, unrelenting light, daring anyone to speak a word against the girl who now bore the shadow crown. But they all felt it. Every wolf present, whether loyal to Lucian or not, had witnessed the moment. The fire, the shadows, the crown. The girl who had pretended to be blind for 10 years had revealed herself as something other, something ancient, dangerous, untouchable. When Lucian finally strode back toward the palace doors, carrying Elara in his arms, like a king bearing both weapon and treasure, the wolves parted for him in silence. Some lowered their heads in submission, others stared with thinly veiled suspicion, and a few, like his high counselors, exchanged wary glances. Elara felt every gaze like daggers against her skin. Her wolf bristled, but her body was weak, trembling from the power she had unleashed. The shadow crown had vanished from sight, but the mark of it lingered in her veins, thrumming faintly, reminding her it had not disappeared, it was waiting. Lucian carried her into the throne room. The fires still burned in the massive hearth, casting long shadows across the blood-stained marble. His council was already gathered, their robes torn, their faces pale. These were the wolves who had advised kings for generations, hardened by centuries of wars, betrayals, and shifting alliances. Yet tonight, they looked shaken. Lucian lowered Elara carefully into his throne, not beside it, but on it. His throne of black steel and obsidian, carved with runes of power, now held a girl with wide eyes and trembling hands, but who had wielded a firestorm like it was her birthright. The symbolism was not lost on anyone. Lucian turned to face them, his bloodied shirt clinging to his chest, his golden eyes feral with rage. "Speak," he commanded. The first to kneel was Lord Eric, the eldest of the council, his silver hair matted with blood. "My king," he rasped, bowing low, "what we witnessed tonight. It cannot be ignored. She is not—" His eyes flicked toward Elara. "She is not what she claimed to be." Murmurs rippled through the room. Elara's fingers tightened on the arm of the throne. Her voice was soft but steady. "I never claimed to be anything. You were the ones who chose not to see me." A hush fell over the chamber. The counselors shifted uneasily, their gazes darting between her and Lucian. Lady Melis, sharp-eyed and venomous, tilted her head. "You carry the shadow crown." Her voice was cold, cutting. "The mark of prophecy. Do you know what that means, girl?" Elara's wolf rose in her chest, bristling at the insult. "I know it means you fear me." The room went still. Lucian let out a low, dangerous laugh, though there was no humor in it. He stepped closer to the throne, his hand resting possessively on the back of it, his body angled in subtle protection of Elara. "Careful, Melis," he growled softly. "You are speaking to the one who just saved your life. If not for her, you'd be rotting outside with the rest of Cormac's dogs." Her lips thinned, but she said no more. Another counselor stepped forward, his voice trembling despite his attempt at authority. "My king, the prophecy warns of ruin. The girl of fire and shadow. She will either save the crown or destroy it. How can we trust that she will not lead us all to our end?" Lucian's roar shook the walls. "You will trust because I command it." The counselors bowed their heads instantly, throats bared in submission. The sheer dominance of their king filled the chamber, making the air heavy and difficult to breathe. Lucian's gaze cut across them like a blade. "You saw what she is. You felt it. And you will kneel to her as you kneel to me. If any one of you doubts her place, step forward now and meet my claws." Silence. Not one moved. Satisfied, Lucian turned back to Elara. His golden eyes softened only slightly as he looked at her. "The council is dismissed." The wolves shuffled out reluctantly, though their whispered doubts still clung to the air. The great doors closed, leaving only Lucian and Elara in the throne room. The silence stretched between them, heavy, charged. Elara shifted on the throne, her voice quiet. "They're right to be afraid. I don't even understand what I am." Lucian stepped closer, his hands braced on either side of the throne, caging her in. His body radiated heat, dominance, hunger. His voice was low, rough, dangerous. "I don't care what you are." His eyes burned into hers, unrelenting. "You are mine." Her breath hitched. "Lucian." "No." His jaw clenched, his fangs flashing as his wolf clawed for release. "Don't fight me on this, Elara. You burned an army to ash. You crowned yourself in shadows. You carry the power of gods in your blood. Do you think I will let you stand alone in this? Do you think I will let anyone else touch what's mine?" Her wolf howled inside her, desperate, aching for him. The bond between them stretched tight, humming, demanding. He leaned closer, his lips brushing her ear, his voice breaking on the edge of control. "I nearly marked you tonight." Her pulse raced. "But you didn't." His hand slammed down on the armrest beside her, claws digging into the wood. His other hand gripped her jaw, forcing her to look at him. His golden eyes blazed with hunger and torment. "Because if I did, Elara, there would be no turning back. Once you carry my mark, once you bear my scent, you will never escape me. Not prophecy, not shadows, not even death." The words trembled with truth. Her body ached for it, for the bite, the mark, the claim. Her wolf howled, pressing against her skin, demanding it. But her visions haunted her still. The sight of Lucian bleeding, kneeling, the crown of shadows floating above him. If she allowed him to claim her, would it save him or kill him? Her voice shook as she whispered, "What if marking me destroys you?" Lucian's lips curved into a feral smile, though his eyes burned with something deeper than desire. Devotion, obsession. "Then I will burn happily at your side." The bond surged violently, wrapping around them like fire and chains. His lips hovered over hers, close enough for her to taste his ragged breath, his control slipping inch by inch. And for the first time, Elara wasn't sure if she wanted him to resist. Chapter 12. The throne room emptied, leaving only the echo of departing footsteps and the oppressive silence of shadows. Elara's heart thundered in her chest as Lucian loomed over her, his golden eyes molten with hunger and something sharper. Possession. She was still perched on his throne, her body trembling from exhaustion, but his proximity made her forget the ache in her bones, the weakness in her limbs. The world outside might have been smoldering ruins, but in this moment, the war wasn't armies or crowns, it was him. Lucian's hands braced on the throne, caging her in as though daring her to flee. His scent, cedarwood, musk, and faint smoke from battle, wrapped around her, pulling at her wolf. The tether between them thrummed, thick and unrelenting, making it almost impossible to breathe. "You still doubt me," he said, voice a husky growl that scraped across her skin like claws. Her fingers curled into the obsidian armrest. "I don't doubt you." Her voice trembled. "I doubt fate." His lips twisted, bitter. Fate is nothing but a leash wolves cling to when they are too weak to bite. But she had seen it. The blood, the shadows, the crown floating over his bowed head. The vision was carved into her bones like a scar, and no amount of Lucian's growled defiance could erase it. Her silence seemed to fuel his frustration. His hand rose, not roughly, but with undeniable dominance, gripping her jaw, tilting her face upward until their eyes locked. "I asked once," he said lowly, dangerously, "but I will not ask again. Do you want me, Elara?" The question shattered something in her chest. Her lips parted, but no words came. Her wolf howled in answer, clawing against her ribs, demanding she surrender, demanding she stop resisting. Lucian leaned closer, his mouth brushing the corner of hers, not yet a kiss, a torment. His voice was ragged. "I feel your wolf. She wants me. She calls for me in the night. Do not lie and say she doesn't." Elara's body betrayed her. Her breath hitched, her thighs pressed together, heat spiraling low in her belly. The bond pulled, tugged, demanded. She whispered, barely audible, "She wants you." Lucian's groan was low, guttural, torn from somewhere primal, his forehead pressed to hers, his chest heaving. For a moment, the mighty Alpha King looked like a man battling himself, and losing. His lips descended, crashing into hers with bruising force. The kiss wasn't soft. It wasn't tentative. It was claiming. His mouth moved against hers with a ferocity that stole her breath, a hunger that made her bones quake. His hand slid into her hair, gripping it tightly, holding her still as his. Tongue demanded entrance, tasting her like he had waited 1,000 years. Elara gasped, and he devoured the sound, deepening the kiss until her body melted into the throne, until she couldn't remember why she had resisted for so long. Heat pooled between them, an inferno sparked by years of denial and fear. His other hand slid down her throat, across her collarbone, resting dangerously close to the neckline of her torn gown. His claws grazed her skin, not enough to cut but enough to remind her of the danger. And yet, she didn't fear him, she feared herself. Because she wanted it. She wanted his teeth in her neck, his mark burned into her skin, his scent staining her forever. Lucian. She gasped against his mouth, but her protest dissolved into a moan as his lips trailed down her jaw to her throat. His fangs scraped the sensitive skin where his mark would go, where the bond begged for completion. Her entire body arched into him, betraying her. Lucian's breath came ragged, his voice guttural against her skin. "Say it. Say you're mine." The words trembled on her lips. Her wolf clawed at her throat, desperate to speak them, desperate to surrender. But then... a flash. Blood soaking the marble floor. Wolves howling in agony. Lucian kneeling, his chest torn open. The shadow crown floating above him, dripping black fire. Her own hands covered in blood. His blood. The vision struck her like lightning, sharp and merciless. She ripped herself away from him with a strangled cry, clutching her head as pain seared behind her eyes. Lucian froze, his fangs bared, his chest heaving. "Elara?" She stumbled to her feet, nearly collapsing, her breath ragged. "I saw it again," she gasped. "You, dying, the crown devouring you, me, covered in your blood." His face hardened instantly, though his eyes burned with a mix of fury and fear. He reached for her, but she flinched back, shaking her head violently. "You can't mark me," she whispered, voice breaking. "If you do, it will kill you." Silence. The throne room seemed to darken, as if the very shadows listened. Lucian's jaw clenched, his golden eyes glowing dangerously. "I would rather die with my mark on you than live another day without it." Her heart shattered. "And I would rather die 1,000 deaths than be the reason you fall." The words tore from her, raw and desperate, echoing across the empty chamber. For a moment neither of them moved. The bond between them pulsed painfully, demanding, aching, unsatisfied. Finally, Lucian straightened slowly, his chest rising and falling as he caged his rage. His voice was a deadly whisper. "Prophecy be damned. I will not let fate steal you from me." And then he turned, stalking away from her before he lost what little control he had left, leaving Elara trembling and alone on his throne, haunted by both his touch and the vision that threatened to tear them apart. Chapter 13. The moon hung low and heavy, its silver glow spilling across the darkened corridors of the Blackstone Palace. Though silence blanketed the great halls, Elara couldn't escape the pounding of her own heartbeat, echoing in her ears like a drum of war. Sleep had eluded her. Every time she closed her eyes, the vision replayed, Lucian on his knees, blood soaking his chest, the shadow crown devouring him while she stood powerless. It wasn't just a fleeting nightmare. It was a prophecy, a warning. And the bond between them only made it more agonizing. She sat at the edge of her chamber's massive bed, staring at the faint crack of moonlight streaming through the tall arched window. The palace felt too still tonight, as if holding its breath. Her wolf paced inside her, restless, torn between the intoxicating pull toward Lucian and the instinct to flee. Her door creaked softly. Her pulse jumped. For one mad moment, she thought it was Lucian again, coming to finish what he had started in the throne room. But when the shadow stretched across the floor, she realized the figure was too lean, too sharp. A man stepped into view, his smile wicked and his eyes glinting with mischief. He wore no royal crest, only dark leathers that clung to his muscled frame. His aura was powerful, alpha strong, but not Lucian's. This wolf reeked of rebellion, danger, and untamed wilderness. Well, well, he drawled, leaning against the doorframe as though he belonged there. The rumors were true. The Alpha King keeps a secret in his palace. And what a secret she is. Elara rose to her feet slowly, muscles taut, every sense on alert. Who are you? He smirked. Someone who knows what you are. Someone who knows why you've been hiding. Her stomach dropped. The man circled closer, his movements fluid and predatory. He smelled of pine and blood, a wildness that reminded her of the rogue packs that prowled the northern borders. His eyes glowed faintly amber, his smirk unshaken. You've pretended well, little wolf. 10 years of blindness? Clever. But you can't hide forever. Not from me. Her wolf snarled inside her, hackles rising. He knew. Somehow, this stranger knew the truth she had buried deeper than any grave. He leaned close, his breath hot against her ear. Tell me, does the Alpha King know? Or does he think you're just a fragile little bird, waiting to be devoured? Her fists clenched, trembling. Stay away from me. The intruder chuckled low, the sound vibrating like a threat. Or what? You'll scream for your king? Make him come running to claim you? Mark you? Elara's pulse raced. His words cut too close to her fears, to the truth she fought to bury. The vision burned behind her eyes, sharper now, almost taunting her. He stepped back just enough to meet her gaze, his expression darkening with seriousness. Lucian isn't the only alpha who can claim you. If you were mine, you wouldn't have to fear him dying. I'd bind you, shield you, keep you away from the crown's curse. You'd be free from fate. Her heart stumbled. A shiver skated down her spine. Not of desire, but of dread. Because as much as she loathed this intruder, a tiny broken part of her wondered if he was right. What if binding herself to Lucian really was the noose tightening around his throat? A low, dangerous growl rumbled through the air, vibrating the floor beneath their feet. The intruder froze. The scent hit Elara first. Smoke, cedar, storm winds. Her wolf howled, pressing against her ribs. Lucian. The Alpha King stepped from the shadows of the chamber, his golden eyes ablaze, his presence suffocating the air like a storm about to break. His bare chest gleamed under the moonlight, muscles rigid, his expression carved in fury. Get away from her. The intruder smirked, though his stance shifted subtly, preparing for a fight. So the mighty Alpha King does keep his little mate locked away. Tell me, Lucian, does she know the truth about what happens if you claim her? Lucian's growl shook the walls. In a blink, he was across the room, slamming the man against the stone with enough force to crack it. Claws pressed against the rogue's throat, his teeth bared. You dare step into my palace, into her chambers, speak her name with your filthy tongue? Lucian's voice was thunder and death. The rogue only grinned through the pressure on his neck. You can't protect her forever, King. She's a vision of ruin. Mark her, and the shadow crown will take you. We all know it. Elara's breath seized. Lucian roared, slamming the rogue harder into the wall, but the man only laughed, the sound ragged. She will destroy you, or maybe she'll choose me. That was the final straw. Lucian's claws dug in, blood slicking the rogue's throat. If you ever come near her again, I will scatter your bones across the mountains and let the crows feast on your eyes. The intruder only smirked wider, though pain laced his features. You can kill me, Lucian, but you can't kill fate. And then, before Lucian could strike again, the rogue slipped into shadow, his body vanishing, into mist, leaving only the echo of his laughter and the sharp stench of blood behind. The silence that followed was suffocating. Lucian stood panting, claws dripping red, his chest heaving. His golden gaze snapped to Elara, blazing with rage and something far more dangerous, desperation. Elara. His voice was gravel, his hand twitching at his side, torn between reaching for her and restraining himself. "Why didn't you call for me?" Her lips trembled. "Because I didn't know if you'd save yourself." The words ripped through him like blades. His chest rose and fell violently, his jaw tightening. He stalked forward, and Elara instinctively backed up until her legs hit the bed. Lucian caged her again, his body towering, his scent drowning her. "You are mine," he snarled, low and broken. "No rogue, no prophecy, no cursed crown will change that. Do you understand me?" Her eyes burned with tears, her hands pressed to his chest. "And when the vision comes true? When you die because of me? What then, Lucian?" For the first time, his fury faltered. His hand trembled as it cupped her cheek, his eyes burning with something raw, almost shattered. "Then I will die with your name on my lips," he whispered fiercely. "And it will still be worth it." Her wolf howled in anguish, torn between surrender and fear, and as his thumb brushed away a tear, she realized the game had shifted. The rogue wasn't just a threat, he was a reminder. Time was running out, and no matter how desperately she resisted, the bond between her and Lucian was unraveling her defenses thread by thread. Chapter 14. The palace did not sleep after the intruder's escape. Though the rogue had vanished into mist, the echo of his words lingered, as sharp and cutting as blades pressed to throats. Guards doubled their patrols. Wards were strengthened along the palace walls, and still, an unease settled over Blackstone like a shroud, thick and suffocating, as if the stones themselves remembered the taste of blood. Elara hadn't closed her eyes. She couldn't. Every time she tried, she saw the rogue's smirk, his warning, and worse. Lucian's broken whisper, "Then I will die with your name on my lips." That vow haunted her more than the prophecy itself. By dawn, the entire kingdom stirred with anticipation. The blood moon was approaching, 3 nights away, when the sky would bleed red and the veil between worlds would thin. It was a sacred event, one that drew every alpha and dignitary from the surrounding packs. And this year, it would be hosted in Lucian's domain. The gathering was meant to unify, to renew treaties, to showcase the might of the Blackstone dynasty. But to Elara, it was another battlefield. She had seen glimpses of it in her visions. Rival alphas whispering in dark. Corners, knives hidden behind smiles, the shadow crown pulsing with hunger. And in the center of it all, Lucian, his golden eyes dimming with the curse. That morning, attendants rushed to her chambers, carrying gowns of shimmering silk and velvet in hues of crimson and black. "You'll need to choose one, my lady," one attendant murmured, holding up a dress embroidered with silver thread shaped like crescent moons. "The Alpha King has ordered your presence at tonight's preliminary banquet." Elara froze. "Tonight? He wants me at his side?" The woman nodded. "As his mate, you must be seen." Her chest constricted. His mate, even unmarked, unclaimed, the title pressed against her skin like an iron brand. And yet, denying it felt like denying the truth her body already knew. The bond pulsed beneath her ribcage, tugging toward him, even when fear begged her to resist. She ran her fingers over the gowns, each one heavy with expectation. To appear tonight would mean stepping out of the shadows she had cloaked herself in for a decade. No more hiding, no more pretending to be blind. The entire kingdom and every rival alpha would see her, judge her, scheme against her, and perhaps try to take her. Her wolf bristled, a low growl echoing in her chest. Let them try. When the sun dipped below the horizon, the palace transformed. Torches blazed along the grand hall, shadows flickering across banners of black and gold. Music thrummed from the lower chambers, drums and violins weaving a sound both haunting and primal. The scent of roasted meats and spiced wine filled the air, mingling with the musk of powerful wolves gathered under one roof. The blood moon gathering had begun. Elara descended the staircase in the silver-embroidered gown, her hair cascading in dark waves down her back. Jewels glittered at her throat, though none could match the fire in her eyes. For the first time in years, she walked without the guise of blindness. Each step was deliberate, a silent declaration, I am no one's pawn. But the moment her gaze found Lucian, her resolve wavered. He stood at the head of the hall, a vision of lethal command. His black attire was cut sharp to his frame, the golden crown resting upon his brow catching the torchlight. His eyes, those molten pools of gold, locked on her, blazing with possessive fire that nearly burned her alive. The room stilled, conversations faltered. Every alpha, every dignitary turned to look at her, whispers rising like a tide. His mate, the hidden one. She was supposed to be blind. She carries ruin in her eyes. Lucian's jaw flexed as he caught their stares. A single growl rippled from his throat, silencing the hall. Without breaking eye contact, he extended his hand toward her, command written in every line of his body. Elara hesitated, heart hammering. To take his hand would be to claim him before all, to step into the fire willingly, and yet, her body betrayed her. Her wolf leapt inside her chest, urging, howling, desperate. She placed her hand in his. The bond snapped taut between them, a surge of heat and lightning racing through her veins. Lucian's lips curled into a dangerous smirk, his thumb brushing her knuckles with quiet promise. You came, he murmured, low enough for only her to hear. You gave me no choice, she whispered back. He leaned close, his breath warm against her ear. I always give you a choice, Elara. You just never choose the one that keeps me sane. Her pulse faltered. The banquet unfolded with strained civility. Rival alphas toasted with smiles that didn't reach their eyes. Conversations hummed, heavy with politics and hidden daggers. Elara sat at Lucian's side, her every sense sharpened, the rogue's warning gnawing at her mind. She could feel eyes on her constantly, some curious, some envious, and some hungry. A tall alpha from the eastern packs his hair as white as snow and eyes, as cold as ice, leaned forward during the meal, addressing Lucian. So it's true, he said smoothly, gaze flicking to Elara. The great alpha king has finally revealed his mate. Tell me, was she worth keeping hidden for so long? The table went tense. All eyes shifted between Lucian and the eastern alpha. Lucian's hand tightened over Elara's thigh beneath the table, his claws threatening to pierce fabric. His smile was slow, deadly. Worth is not something I debate with lesser wolves. The eastern alpha's smirk faltered, but he didn't back down. Some say she carries ruin in her blood, that the shadow crown hungers for her. Surely, you've heard the whispers, King. Elara's breath caught. Lucian's gaze burned golden fire, but his voice was calm, lethal silk. I don't concern myself with whispers, only with silencing the fools who make them. The alpha shifted uncomfortably, and the conversation veered elsewhere. But Elara could feel the tension thickening like storm clouds. Every rival in that hall had seen her. Every one of them had measured her value. And some would no doubt try to use her as leverage. And in the darkest corner of the room, half hidden behind goblets of wine and laughter, she saw him. The rogue. Alive. Watching. Smirking. Her blood turned cold, and as the moonlight slipped through the stained glass windows, staining the floor crimson, Elara realized the banquet was not a celebration, it was a hunting ground. And she was the prize. Chapter 15. The banquet ended in revelry, but Elara's nerves thrummed like an overstrung bowstring. She could still feel his gaze, that rogue alpha, lurking at the edge of the hall like a shadow that refused to be banished. Even as Lucian led her from the chamber, his hand firm at the small of her back, she knew the rogue wasn't gone. He hadn't come merely to watch. He had come to remind her that she was a piece on a board larger than the palace walls, and pieces could be moved. The corridors of Blackstone Castle were hushed at night, though the torches burned bright. Their flames licked the stone with restless hunger, casting long shadows that trailed behind her like grasping claws. Lucian had dismissed the guards from her chamber door, insisting he alone would keep her safe. That should have comforted her, but it didn't. Because sometimes his devotion felt like chains, golden, warm, but chains nonetheless. That night she tried to sleep. She truly did. She curled beneath the furs, listening to the distant howl of wolves patrolling the outer walls. Yet her eyes would not close. The bond throbbed restlessly beneath her ribs, tugging her senses open. And then, she heard it, a whisper, soft as a caress of wind against her ear. "Little wolf." Her body went rigid. Slowly she turned her head, and there he was, the rogue, leaning against the window ledge, moonlight bathing him in pale silver. His black hair shimmered like ink, his smirk both mocking and enticing. Somehow he had slipped past every guard, every ward, and now stood inside her chambers as though he belonged there. Elara's wolf snarled, bristling. She sat up, her heart thundering. "How did you—" "Shh," he murmured, lifting a finger to his lips. "Wouldn't want to wake your precious Alpha King, would we? He'd kill me on sight, and then neither of us would get what we want." Her fists clenched in the sheets. "You don't know what I want." The rogue tilted his head, studying her with eyes that glowed faintly red in the moonlight. "Don't I? You've spent a decade hiding, little wolf, pretending to be blind, pretending to be helpless. Do you really think Lucian sees you, the woman? Or does he only see what he wants to possess?" His words were poison. Smooth, dripping, dangerous, and yet they burrowed into the cracks of her doubts. "You lie," she whispered. "Do I?" He stepped closer, his presence filling the chamber like smoke. "You feel it, don't you? The Shadow Crown calls for you." "Not him. You. You're not meant to be his prize, Elara. You're meant to rule." Her throat tightened. "Rule?" "Yes." His voice lowered, almost reverent. "By my side." The bond inside her flared violently, as if in protest. But another part of her, deeper, darker, shivered at the offer. She had always seen visions, glimpses of ruin and fire. Hadn't she, in some shadowed part of her soul, always feared she was the curse? And yet, the door slammed open. "Get away from her." Lucian's voice was thunder, his golden eyes molten fury. He strode into the chamber, shirt discarded, muscles flexing with barely contained rage. His wolf bristled beneath his skin, power radiating like a storm unleashed. The rogue only smirked wider. Ah, the king himself, late, but not unexpected. Lucian's body shifted between them, shielding Elara. His claws half shifted, his growl reverberating through the stone walls. "Touch her again, and I will rip you apart so slowly the gods themselves will hear your scream." The rogue raised his hands mockingly, stepping back toward the window. "Careful, king! Kill me, and she may never learn the truth. The prophecy is not yours to control." And then, with a mocking bow to Elara, he vanished, dissolving into shadow before Lucian could strike. The silence that followed was deafening. Lucian turned to her, his chest heaving, his jaw tight with a feral edge. His hands gripped her shoulders, firm, shaking. "Why didn't you call for me?" Her eyes burned. "Because I didn't want you to see me weak." That broke something in him. His fury melted into anguish, his forehead pressing against hers. "Weak? Elara, you are the only thing in this cursed world keeping me sane." His voice cracked. "Don't you understand? If I lose you, there is nothing left of me." Her hands trembled as they lifted to his chest. The bond roared between them, dragging her closer. She could feel his wolf clawing at the edges, desperate to claim, to mark, to bind. And gods help her. Her wolf wanted it too. "Lucian," she whispered, torn between fear and surrender. His lips hovered over hers, a breath apart, his words a vow and a plea all at once. "Choose me. Even if the world burns, choose me." Her heart pounded so hard she thought it might shatter. The rogue's temptation still lingered in her veins, whispering of crowns and ruin. But here, Lucian's touch, Lucian's fire, was home. Before she could answer, the horns sounded from the outer walls. A warning, the blood moon had risen. And with it, the war for her destiny had begun. Chapter 16. The horns blared again, their mournful cry echoing through the stone bones of Blackstone Castle. Every wolf within its walls felt the vibration, a call that made their wolves stir restlessly beneath their skins. The blood moon had risen. Elara staggered to her feet, her hands still trembling from Lucian's touch, her lips tingling from the kiss that never landed. Her chest rose and fell rapidly, the bond between them thrumming as though anticipating what was to come. Lucian was already halfway to the door, golden eyes glowing brighter with each passing second. His wolf was clawing, desperate to break free. "Stay here," he commanded, his voice a low growl vibrating with authority. "Do not move until I return." "No," the word tore from her throat, sharp and desperate. "You can't face him alone, Lucian." He stopped. Slowly he turned, his gaze cutting to hers with all the weight of a king and a mate. "If I lose you, Elara, there is no kingdom to protect. You are everything." Her heart squeezed, caught between the terror of what awaited them and the raw truth in his words. Outside, the castle erupted into motion, boots thundering, armor clinking, snarls echoing as wolves shifted in haste. The scent of fear and adrenaline bled through the stone walls. Elara's visions stirred like restless birds in her mind, flashes of blood on marble, howls swallowed by shadow, a crown falling into black fire. Her breath hitched, and she gripped the bedpost to keep from swaying. "This is it," her wolf whispered, "the moment we've been running from for 10 long years." The great courtyard of Blackstone was drenched in crimson light. The blood moon hung swollen and low in the sky, casting every blade, every wolf, every face in shades of red. It felt as though the very heavens had bled into the world. Lucian stood at the forefront, his massive frame casting a shadow across his gathered warriors. His alpha aura rolled over them like thunder, commanding silence. Yet, for all his power, Elara saw the way his shoulders tensed when the rival alphas arrived. They came in droves, wolves draped in the banners of their packs, leaders, with their heads held high, eyes gleaming with calculation. They bowed, but not in respect, in acknowledgement of the stage about to be set, and then, as though summoned by the moon itself, he appeared. The rogue, he walked through the rival alphas as though he belonged among them, his lips curved. In that same infuriating smirk, his crimson eyes glinting with unholy light. "King Lucian," he drawled, bowing mockingly. "What a fine night for destiny to be decided." Lucian's growl rumbled so deep the ground beneath their feet seemed to shudder. "You dare step into my court? Your court?" The rogue chuckled darkly, spreading his arms. "No, no, my king. This night belongs to the moon. And the moon does not favor you." As if on cue, the rival alphas stirred, shifting their weight, their wolves bristling. It was clear alliances had been made, promises had been whispered in shadow. Elara's breath caught as she realized the truth. This wasn't just an attack, it was a coup. The air trembled, one heartbeat and then another. And then, chaos. The first rival alpha lunged, claws flashing. Lucian met him head-on, his body shifting mid-leap, fur exploding across his skin. Bones reshaping into the massive golden beast that was feared across the lands. His roar split the night, shaking every torch in its sconce. The courtyard erupted into a battlefield. Wolves clashed in a frenzy of teeth and claws, blood splattering across the marble as snarls and howls filled the air. Elara stumbled back, the vision she had seen years ago unfolding in reality. The moon painted everything red, every death, every scream echoing louder in her ears. And then, she felt it, a hand around her arm. Her head snapped to the side, and the rogue stood there, impossibly close, as if the battlefield bent around him. His grip was strong but not painful, his eyes boring into hers with wicked intensity. "Do you see now?" he hissed over the carnage. "Your king is strong, yes, but he cannot win against them all. Not without you." She tried to wrench free. "Let me go!" He pulled her closer, his breath brushing her ear. "Elara, listen. The Shadow Crown is yours by right. You were chosen, not him. If you stand with me, I can end this war in moments. No more blood, no more death." Her chest heaved. The bond to Lucian thrashed inside her, wild and furious, demanding she pull away, demanding she choose him. But the rogue's words seeped into her doubts like poison and honey both. Visions flickered. Lucian falling beneath claws, the crown swallowed in shadow, herself cloaked in power unimaginable, her wolf snarled, torn between instinct and temptation, and then Lucian's roar split the battlefield. He had seen the rogue's hands on her, seen the closeness. His golden eyes burned hotter than the moon itself, locking onto her as though she were the only thing that mattered in the storm of blood. "Elara!" His voice thundered, breaking across the chaos. "Choose me. Now." The world seemed to still. Her lungs seized, every thread of fate pulling tight around her. The rogue's grip was fire on one arm, Lucian's bond a burning chain around her heart. The blood moon watched above, silent and hungry. This was it. The moment everything would shatter, or be remade. Chapter 17. The world slowed to a heartbeat. One moment, the courtyard was a chaos of blood and fur, claws and teeth tearing through the night. The next, everything seemed to mute, as though the blood moon itself demanded silence to witness what would unfold. Elara stood caught between two forces that had ruled her life in secret for 10 years. On one side, Lucian, Alpha King, her fated mate, his golden wolf tearing through enemies with feral precision. He was bloodied, his golden fur streaked with crimson, his teeth bared in a snarl that made even the bravest Alpha hesitate. Yet his eyes never left her. Burning, wild, desperate. His bond called to her like a beacon through the storm, commanding, pleading, "Choose me." On the other side, the rogue, dark, untamed, his presence like a shadowed flame. His grip on her arm was unrelenting, yet his voice was low, intimate, threaded with seduction and prophecy. His crimson eyes gleamed with certainty as if he already knew the outcome. "Elara," he whispered, "the moon marked you for more than to be some king's possession. You are meant to reign beside me, to unleash what lies buried inside you." Her chest tightened, her breaths shallow. The visions crashed over her like waves, Lucian bleeding out on the marble, a crown swallowed. By shadows, her own body cloaked in power that did not feel entirely her own. Her wolf howled within, torn between instinct and temptation. "He is ours," it growled, flashing Lucian's image across her mind. "Our mate, our bond, our home." But another voice, one that had whispered through her visions for years, rose up from the depths of her soul. "The shadow crown belongs to the Seer Queen, not to the Alpha King." Her hands trembled. Lucian's roar split the night, dragging her back to the present. He leapt, massive golden wolf colliding with the rogue, claws sinking into his shoulder. The rogue released her, spinning with unnatural speed, his own body shifting midair, into a monstrous black wolf with eyes like coals and fangs sharper than steel. The impact of their clash shook the ground, sending cracks across the marble courtyard. Warriors stumbled back, giving the two titans space. And still, the blood moon bled down on them all, a silent witness, demanding a choice. "Elara!" Lucian's voice was ragged, his wolf's maw dripping blood, his chest rising and falling with each breath. "Choose! End this now! You are mine!" the rogue snarled, his wolf's form rippling back into his tall, scarred human frame, his chest heaving, blood staining his side yet his smile unbroken. He extended his hand to her, palm open, eyes blazing. "Or stand with me, and I will give you the world the king cannot. Power, freedom, the truth of who you are." The courtyard fell still again, the war pausing around her as if the universe itself held its breath. Elara's knees weakened. Tears burned her eyes. 10 years of running, 10 years of lies, 10 years of pretending to be blind, powerless, small, just to survive. And now both truths clawed at her in the open. The bond to Lucian throbbed inside her, alive, demanding she take the final step, complete the claim, seal herself to him forever. Yet the rogue's words tugged at the visions that had haunted her since she was a child. She was not just a mate. She was not just a seer. She was something else, something bigger, and he knew it. Her voice cracked as she whispered, "I don't know." Lucian froze, hurt flashing across his golden eyes like a blade. The rogue's smirk deepened, victory curling across his lips. And then, The blood moon pulsed. A wave of crimson light cascaded across the courtyard, flooding every wolf with primal energy. Some staggered, some howled in frenzy. But Elara, she screamed. Her body arched, her veins lit like fire, and visions poured through her in a torrent she could not control. The shadow crown, a throne of bone, wolves kneeling, blood flooding a river, a hand clasping hers, golden eyes. Crimson eyes. Both. Neither. Her body shook violently, and when she collapsed to her knees, a circle of red light blazed beneath her, marking her in front of all. Gasps echoed from the rival alphas, whispers of fear, awe, disbelief. "She is," one muttered, stumbling back. "The Seer Queen." Lucian's face hardened, realization dawning. His mate, his Elara, was not only his fated queen, but the prophesied ruler of the Shadow Crown itself. The rogue's laugh broke the stunned silence, sharp and triumphant. "Yes, at last the moon reveals her. Do you see now, Lucian? She was never meant to be yours alone. She was meant to be more." Lucian's growl rolled like thunder, his voice cutting across the night. "She is mine. Always. Nothing changes that." The rogue stepped closer, unafraid of the king's wrath, his crimson gaze burning into Elara's. "The choice is hers. Let her speak." The circle of red light pulsed again, demanding an answer. Elara's throat tightened as both wolves' gazes pinned her in place. Her heart slammed against her ribs, torn between two paths, love and destiny, bond and prophecy, heart and power. And for the first time, she realized the cruelest truth of all. Her choice would not just seal her fate, it would decide the fate of every wolf beneath the blood moon. Chapter 18. The red circle of light pulsed beneath Elara, burning into her skin, branding her soul. She could feel the entire pack, the rival alphas, even the wind itself holding its breath. The blood moon demanded an answer. Lucian stood bloodied, golden fur matted, his massive wolf trembling from the wounds he'd sustained, but his eyes burned brighter than ever. Golden, fierce, desperate, not with the greed of possession, but with the raw, naked truth of a mate's love. He wasn't asking for power. He wasn't asking for her throne. He was asking only for her. The rogue stood taller, despite his bleeding side, crimson gaze sharp, his hand still outstretched. His voice was velvet over steel. "Come to me, Elara. Step into the truth you've always hidden from. You are more than a king's mate. You are the Seer Queen. You were meant to rule beyond him. With me you'll never have to bow. You'll never be small. You'll be everything." The words pierced her heart because once, long ago, she might have wanted them. She'd spent 10 years pretending to be blind, pretending to be powerless, bowing so no one would see her. A part of her still trembled at the thought of stepping fully into the light. Her wolf clawed inside her. "Listen, Elara. One voice is power, the other is love. Which are you?" She lifted her face to the sky. The blood moon burned down like fire, a spotlight on her trembling frame. She felt its weight, its demand. And then, clarity. She saw 10 years of pain, 10 years of hiding, 10 years of loneliness. And then she saw Lucian, the man who had fought for her without knowing the full truth, who had bled. For her, who had risked his crown, his life, his very soul to keep her safe. Lucian had not asked her to be queen. He had asked her to be his mate, his partner, his equal. Her choice had already been made the moment she first looked into his eyes. Elara lifted her chin, her voice steady, loud enough to carry across the courtyard. "My destiny is not to rule beside darkness," she whispered, her words shaking the silence. Then louder, stronger, "My destiny is love. My destiny is him." She turned, her eyes locking with Lucian's, and stepped into the golden wolf's waiting form. The rogue's roar of rage split the night, echoing like thunder, but it was drowned out by the eruption of light. The red circle flared, then shattered, and the blood moon poured its final power into her. Elara's body burned with fire, her wolf surging free, glowing silver beneath the crimson sky. She leapt, merging into Lucian's side, their wolves aligning, bond sealing with a crack that split the very air. The mate bond ignited fully. It wasn't just a thread between them. It was a tidal wave, a river of gold and silver crashing together, wrapping around their hearts, binding their souls. Pain and fear dissolved, replaced with pure wholeness, a completeness she had never known. Lucian's voice thundered through the bond, raw and breaking. Mine, my queen, my mate, my Elara. Her wolf answered, tears streaming down her human face even as her soul roared with triumph. Always. Yours. Forever. The surge of power knocked the rogue to his knees, his crimson eyes widening in fury as the shadow. Crown, the throne he thought destined for him, dissolved into nothing but dust in the wind. His screams faded with the night as the pack rallied behind their true king and queen. And then, silence. Lucian, still in his wolf, staggered forward. Elara, trembling, shifted back, silver hair plastered to her sweat-drenched face, her eyes glowing with the remnants of prophecy. She reached for him with shaking hands, and in front of them all, the Alpha King collapsed into her arms. "Lucian!" she cried, cradling his bloodied form, tears streaking her cheeks. "Stay with me. Please, don't leave me now, not when I've finally chosen you." His eyes fluttered open, golden even through the pain. He lifted a shaking hand to her face, thumb brushing her tears. "You chose me," he whispered, voice raw, broken. "That's all I ever wanted." Her sob caught in her throat. "You're not allowed to die, Alpha King. Do you hear me? Not now, not ever. We still have forever." His lips twitched into the faintest smile. Forever. The bond flared between them, burning gold and silver, pouring life back into him as if the moon herself blessed their union. Slowly, painfully, his strength returned. The wounds closed, the bleeding stopped, and before the eyes of the entire pack, the Alpha King rose to his feet again, hand in hand with his Seer queen. The courtyard erupted in howls, cheers, cries of devotion. But for Elara, there was only him. Lucian pulled her against his chest, his lips crushing hers in a kiss so deep, so desperate, it felt like the end and the beginning of everything. The bond flared brighter than the moonlight, sealing them not only as mates, but as king and queen, heart and soul, destiny and forever. When they finally pulled apart, his forehead rested against hers, his golden eyes soft with unguarded love. "My Elara," he whispered. "No more hiding, no more running. You are mine, and I am yours, until the stars themselves burn out." Her voice broke as she answered, "And even then, I'll still choose you." The blood moon faded, dawn light breaking across the horizon, painting the sky with gold. And with it, a new reign began. Together. Epilogue. The queen who chose love. A year later, the Silver Palace was alive with laughter. Elara stood on the balcony, silver gown flowing, her hair kissed by the morning sun. Behind her, Lucian wrapped his arms around her waist, pressing a kiss to her neck. The war was long over. The rogue had vanished into the shadows of history, his prophecy broken. The packs had united under their reign, stronger than ever. And the Seer Queen, once a girl who hid behind blindness and fear, now stood at the Alpha King's side, her eyes glowing with strength, her heart glowing with love. Below them, the pack gathered, howling their loyalty, their devotion. And as the sound echoed across the valley, Lucian tightened his arms around her. "Still think you were meant for someone else?" he teased softly, golden eyes dancing. She turned in his arms, cupping his cheek, her lips brushing his in a soft, lingering kiss. "I was meant for you," she whispered. "Always you." And when he kissed her again, sweet, fierce, eternal, the world knew that the queen who could have chosen power had chosen love. And that choice had changed everything. The end. Hey everyone, thanks for watching. Kindly comment below. If you loved it, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that bell icon for more amazing content. Drop a comment with your favorite moment.